The 3007 locomotive is a large 15F locomotive, and it's going to be the largest locomotive in our collection. This locomotive was built in the 1940s and then shipped over to South Africa. It's Glasgow designed, Glasgow built, and it was a number of locomotives that went over to South Africa. When the Riverside Museum project started, we set out a research project for a contractor to be able to locate a South African locomotive for us. They went over to South Africa and sourced the 3007. We then had to bid for it in a secret bid as they were selling it, so we were up against sort of scrap merchants as well. So after we had sourced and acquired our locomotive, we had to organise for the transportation from Bloemfontein in South Africa to Glasgow. I remember at the time the shipping dates kept changing and it was going to set off and then it wasn't, and there were problems with the transportation. In the end, the locomotive had to go via rail and it was pulled and shunted across South Africa to get to Durban, at which point it was loaded onto the ship. From Durban it went to Hamburg in Germany, and then from Hamburg in Germany it came to Immingham, which is in Hull, and then from Hull it came up to Glasgow. We actually went as a team down to Immingham docks to actually see the locomotive come off the ship. That was very exciting. I would think that did bring a tear to my eye to see it lifted up on a crane coming out of the ship, thinking finally it's arrived. It then obviously went on low loaders and was brought up to Glasgow and placed in George Square. I arrived very early the next day and walked into George Square where there was no one about and just saw a locomotive. So I was very, very excited, quite emotional, a bit ridiculous at 7:30 in the morning, but it was so nice to see it in Glasgow. The first thing that we're looking at is disassembling a number of components to be able to clean behind there. It's probably got about 50 years of rail dirt on it that needs to be looked at. The whole aim is to make sure that it's clean and tidy and looks loved and cared for, which at the moment it currently doesn't. The company that are going to work on it are Euroconservation Limited, and they're going to work with myself and our transport and technology conservation team, and the transport curators also involved. We also have a number of apprentices. First group have offered us 3 apprentices who are going to start working on this locomotive. They funded the locomotive to come over from South Africa. So it's a real team effort. In terms of how it will look, I think it will look used, it will look worn, but it will look cared for and it will look loved. So many of our locomotives in our current collection are all bright and shiny, and you've kind of really lost that I'm a working engine, I've worked hard all of my life, and we really, really want to retain that because our other locomotives don't say that to you. When you stand next to this object and see the sheer size of it, it can feel slightly overwhelming, but I have such a good team who are working with me that now it's just very, very exciting. I'm very enthusiastic about being able to work on this project. It's kind of once in a lifetime being able to conserve something of this scale. Certainly Glasgow museums haven't done anything on this scale since we probably acquired the collection. It's going to be very exciting. I'm going to be very busy. Too busy? No, very busy.